we're children, we look at our parents like gods. Literal gods. I mean, think about it. They give life to us, and in most cases, they feed us, clothe us, provide for us. But imagine for a moment, you're back in your childhood home as a kid. What's the most common emotions your parents made you feel? Take a second, I'll wait. I can tell you my experience. Being an only child in a 2-bedroom apartment with a single emotionally unavailable father, I can tell you the majority of the time, I felt invisible. If I did something to upset him, and usually I had no idea what it was, he would go quiet for days and look straight through me. And coming from an environment, back in the day, when there was really no internet and I didn't have any friends and no family to run to. I felt trapped in this apartment and obligated to figure out this puzzle of how to please my father so I was allowed to be seen again. And I was allowed to feel like I could function. Funny that my previous pattern was attracting partners who would ignore me for days, and I would become obsessed with trying to figure out why and let all my other responsibilities fall to the wayside. My father made me feel like I had to work to get his attention and then work doubly as hard to keep that attention. And since my mother left when I was really young, I craved my father's attention to escape loneliness and that feeling of abandonment. But alas, my father never really extended his energy towards me, and he kept himself completely occupied with projects around the house or hobbies. Similar to my ex, who kept himself very preoccupied with video games or working on his car and had little interest in being around me until he felt obligated to. And the common joke here is daddy issues, which is undeniably true. Though we don't tend to hear the term mommy issues all that often now, do we? Which is quite funny because they're just as prevalent as they are the exact opposite match to people with daddy issues. A lot of the time, people will have a stark resistance to the term daddy issues because it's very difficult for us to recognize that these feelings we have towards our romantic partners are the exact same feelings we had towards our fathers because we've buried that pain deep beneath the craving for their attention, affection, and validation. Now men, and I'm gonna say men here because it's the most common scenario, but the genders are really interchangeable. So men, did you feel like your mother smothered you with closeness, but not the closeness that felt good, the closeness that confused worry with love? You were probably nagged and criticized and constantly felt judged. They had an invested interest in what they mistook as your best interest for their own. Their love felt like drinking poison because it was not given freely. It was only given in a response to you pleasing them. And no matter what you did, it never felt like enough. They loved you for who they wanted you to be, not for who you really were. And because she made you feel responsible for her happiness, you learned the only way to survive was to shut down to her emotionally. You learned that intimacy is dangerous. You want it because you're human, but you also learned that that is an open door for entrapment. It's hard for men to recognize this pattern in their romantic relationships because you still feel so guilty for seeing your mom this way. You don't think it's okay to see your mom in this light. To some degree, you still take responsibility for her well-being, so you don't give yourself permission to see her for what she really is and for what your childhood really was. The guilt. The guilt is keeping you from opening up your eyes. Hopefully you can see how this tug-of-war dynamic between partners where one is desperately nagging and clawing for emotional intimacy and the other is completely shutting down from it out of fear of losing themselves is one of the most toxic and unfortunately prevalent dynamics we have going on in our society. Actually, scratch that, the planet. So I want you to go back to that mental list that you made of how your parents made you feel when you were young. I'd actually encourage you to write it out. And now I want you to make a separate list of all the negative traits about your exes and how they made you feel. Write them side by side and circle the ones that overlap. I bet you'll be hella surprised at how many there actually are. And that all goes back to a previous video that I made, which I'll link down below, of how our brains work. And the light is back. Hi, Mr. Sun. Can you stop screwing up my ISO? My ISO, please. Do you say ISO or ISO? I hate ISO, personally. Oh, bye, Mr. Sun. Okay, back. Oh, no, we're still glowing. We're still glowing. Let's drop it a little bit there. Okay. But to quickly reiterate, when we have trauma in our childhoods, and we are far too young to process and understand what is going on, we have no choice but to shove it out of the conscious mind and into the subconscious mind, where 95% of our thoughts, habits, beliefs, and reactions operate from. You're constantly trying to subconsciously replay these traumas to resolve them. And I am sorry to say, folks, but it will continue to replay in your environment over and over again until you bring it to the light of consciousness and work through those past traumatic memories. So while you go and make that list, I gotta go do something. Let's go. I'm here, and now I'm shaking. Okay, let's go. From over the past 5 years. Still there? I don't know why this hurts so bad. Holy f***. So now that I've successfully broken my own heart again, let me tell you what I did to fix it. I made another list. Starting to see the pattern. I made a list of all the traits that I wanted in a partner and all the traits that were non-negotiable. And then I compared. I want someone who's excited about life and who's excited about doing life with me. He wasn't very thoughtful or put much effort into anything except for his work. He's a hard worker, I'll give him that. I always planned everything. Birthdays, events, celebrations, anniversaries, you name it. And even though I'd remind him over and over again how much celebrations and traditions meant to me, he would never do anything for my birthday, for our anniversary. Everything was always an afterthought that I had to construct and plan. Along with him making oh so charming jokes about how we always have to be doing something to be happy, and always giving this emotional resistance to going out. When I had to pick and plan everything, I always felt like I was forcing him. made me feel really lonely. Picking up on more patterns. Quality time is my #1 priority. But it never felt like it was really on his radar until I begged and pleaded for it, or waited weeks on end for him to finally realize he was human and needed some affection. And that was another thing my father did. He never initiated quality time. My father was most definitely a good person, but he was more a provider than a father in my definition of the word. Which I guess makes sense why on my non-negotiable relationship checklist includes must be generous and must be very capable of fixing and renovating things around the house. Whoa, sunlight. I love you, boo. I love you, Mr. Sun, but you need to chill out. But also, your partner needs to be on the same life page as you in terms of what you guys both want out of life. Everything from how you want to live, where you want to live, what kinds of friends you want to have, what you want to experience in life, how you want to raise your children. That is, if you guys want to have kids. I know there are some people out there who do not, and unfortunately, we had far too many differences in those categories to reconcile. To be loved by him, I slowly, a lot of it was subconscious, but some of it was conscious, changed the person I was to better match what he wanted. I stopped investing in my relationship with God, or that hippy-dippy shit, as he would refer to it. I heavily started censoring my beliefs and opinions on things for fear that he would devalue them with being dismissive or with a harmless joke. I walked away from my hypnosis practice and went back to my roots in photography because he refused to accept anything to do with it. Actually, anything to do with psychology, which is 75% of what I'm all about. And as much as I told him I didn't do it for him, I did. I would have done anything for him to love and accept me. But it was when I had enough time away from him to reflect on what made me happy outside of him that I finally understood that I had one of two choices. Confront him with all of who I am and hope that he accepts me, or run the risk of eventually being devalued and belittled in front of my future children, and I could not accept that. I am not willing to accept that. I'm gonna be real with you. It shattered my heart when he confirmed to me that he could not accept me for who I really am. I mean, I knew that he didn't really respect me emotionally or intellectually, which is 2/3 of who I am, but hearing him confirm it, God, it was bad. It was bad. A lot of self-reflection was done, a lot of trauma work was done, but it was bad. Hearing the person that you love unconditionally tell you that they only love you conditionally and are unwilling to understand who you are, I don't wish that on anyone. I felt like that little girl again, begging for attention and validation, and him just looking straight through me. But you came here for how to fix it, right? So let's get to it. Step 1, feel it. Cry for as long as you need to. Do not distract yourself with social media, weed, friends, events, men. Sit with the feelings and let them build. Let them build, and it eventually will pop. Yeah, it's scary. God knows it's not that easy. But it is necessary and extremely, extremely effective. I promise you. I'm gonna make a whole video about this process to walk you guys through it soon. But never be afraid to fall apart, because it's an opportunity to rebuild yourself from the bottom up the way you wish you would have been all along. Step 2. In the words of Jordan Peterson, clean your room, bucko. Clean and organize your room. Maybe even rearrange the furniture to make the energy in your home feel new. It's proven that when you have a clean and organized environment, your brain is amped for problem solving and productivity. Which brings us to step number 3. Ooh, my finger just did a weird thing. Make those lists. I know you're gonna procrastinate on them and you're gonna say, I'm gonna do them later. Make those lists. To remind you, the first list is how your parents made you feel. Feel free to add any character traits or attributes to it. The second list is how your exes acted and made you feel. And then compare the two. The final list is the fun one. I want you to detail all of the emotions and character traits of your ideal partner and what you want in them. Put a little star beside the things that are completely non-negotiable. This list is important because this list will give you more insight into any incompatibilities you might have had with your past partners and make it consciously easier for you to digest that maybe this relationship wasn't actually what you wanted all along. Maybe, I don't know. That's for you to decide. But step number 4 is the most vital of them all. You need to become the person that you lost or you were afraid to lose during your last relationship. You need to become the person that the ideal partner that you just wrote out would find as their ideal match. For example, my ideal partner is someone who is dedicated to health and wellness physically and also intellectually. I'm such an intellectual, I cannot speak the English. So I changed up my life to reflect that. I now start off my day with a 6 a.m. gym routine, 4 to 5 times a week. And every night before I go to bed, I make sure that I read for at least 20 minutes. Seriously, get creative with this, because the actions you choose to take now will be what attracts the quality of your future partner. But I digress. I still love him, and I know I always will. He has a lot of redeeming qualities, or else I wouldn't have been with him for that long. And if you end up watching this, I genuinely hope you find everything, absolutely everything that you're looking for. Take care of yourself and take care of other people, as well as you take care of that beautiful car. Sorry, truck. And for everyone else out there, I leave you with this Jim Carrey quote. If their absence brings you peace, you didn't lose anything. Comment down below what you've done in the past to get over your emotional heartbreaks. I'm curious. I want to know what's worked for other people. And if you're interested in hearing more about what I have to say in terms of self-development, hypnosis, psychology, all that good bushlaka of the mind, then please subscribe, like this video. Whoa, Mr. Sun, you need to chill. Throw a comment down below before the sun eats my face. And with that all being said, create a good week. I love you.